Hi folks, it's Aquifil again, and this time, we talked about the Payback pay-per-view, and of course, Extreme Rules is yet to come, and if I find the time to finally watch New Japan Wrestling Dontaku or Invasion Attack, maybe I'll give reviews on those two too. But there's a more recent event that shocked some people, and that's the Black Friday releases WWE has essentially every year, when 5 to 10 or even more talents are released because WWE doesn't know what to do with them anymore or what else. Well, and I want to comment on this year's releases. Well, first of all, with the not so shocking stuff, WWE released Hornswoggle. We got to be honest here. Good riddance. Hornswoggle hasn't played an important role for quite a long time, and without Finlay around, even with Finlay around, he really toned down the whole Finlay gimmick, the Belfast Bruiser. As we all know him from the WCW time and other stuff. Hornswoggle, in the ring, he couldn't do too much, or wasn't used that much. His feud against Chavo Guerrero, speaks for itself what WWE thinks about Chavo Guerrero. As I said, good riddance. I highly doubt anyone will miss Hornswoggle, no offense to the guy. Other people like Alex Riley, we all know him as the Miz's Goonie, and as he split from the Miz and turned against his master, we all know that. But in the end, Alex Riley wasn't utilized that much either. So again, I wouldn't say good riddance because he didn't take something away from the show or made it silly. But in the end, if you can't use the guy or have no real stuff you can do with him, you gotta release him, otherwise he just costs money. Zeb Coulter, together with Jack Swagger as We the People, this people movement, that was quite interesting, and he was quite an interesting talker, but his gimmick is a little bit offensive to a lot of people, or was a little bit offensive to a lot of people. And with a little bit offensive, I mean really offensive, and not always in the good kind of way, where you say, I don't care what anybody thinks. If I offend you, sorry about your damn luck. It really got offensive at times, to the point where you sat there and bleeding is not okay, swearing is not okay, sexual innuendos is not okay, but god damn it. His run with Alberto Del Rio, I think that killed the gimmick, or totally killed the gimmick, and so I don't have a clue what WWE could have done with him, who they could have paired with him, or I don't know which kind of wrestler at the moment needs the type of manager that Zeb Coulter is. So okay, I can understand why they released him. Cameron, got no real opinion about that. They released Cameron. That's okay for me. You have tons of talented divas, especially coming up from NXT. No offense, but you don't need a gal like Cameron right now. So, El Torito, same as Hornswoggle, but even, Los Matadores. Two guys who are matadors and have a small, tiny, come on, honestly. We're not in 1994 or 1995 anymore, where that shit flew. It didn't even fly back then. The people didn't like it. That's why WWE almost went out of business when WCW started with the more adult-oriented gimmicks or more mature gimmicks. So El Torito, it's really surprising that he wasn't released way before now. Now we have the three releases that hurt a little bit. Well, Santino Marella is the first one. Actually, it doesn't hurt that much because Santino doesn't really play an active role in the more important storylines. And Santino always is rather silly, but you could use him as a comic relief in certain situations. And in my opinion, a comic relief that was rather funny. And sorry, it appears I've got a cold, but bah, don't let it bother you. Santino Marella, well, actually, he has shown that he's quite capable in the ring, and in my opinion, his gimmick, well, it is rather funny, but I don't think WWE needs comic reliefs at the moment, and well, turning him into a serious competitor as Santino Marella. Well, they have done too much with him in the terms of comedy that it would take a little bit of creative effort to really break this comic streak and make him a tough competitor. And I don't think the WWE wants to do that right now. And yeah, has the capacity to do it right now because such a turn, to make it credible, you have to invest time in the guy. And well, they have a lot of people right now who need the time. And then Santino, he was born in 1979. Well, he's not the youngest guy anymore. So I can see why they wouldn't want to invest much more in him. And well, he costs money, of course. So the two real shockers are King Barrett and Damien Sandow. Those are the real shockers, and in this release wave. And well, first of all, King Barrett. Well, he was in the first season of NXT. We all know that he was the leader of the Nexus, and had a feud with John Cena. And after that, well, it went a little bit downhill, and we all know what came afterwards. King Barrett, bad news, Barrett. I've got some bad news for you. Well, I mentioned it in the, I don't know, I can't recall which pay-per-view it was. I think it was the Roadblock where he and Sheamus fought against the New Day. No, not the New Day. I don't really recall right now, and I don't have that time or energy to look it up now. In his tag team matches with Sheamus, one could see that he indeed is a capable competitor, and we have seen it in the past. King Barrett, give the guy the right gimmick and the bad news gimmick. Well, if it was a little bit more focused on he delivers bad news in the ring, like you just got beat up by bad news Barrett. Well, and instead of just coming out there talking about some bad news, ripping on the people, well, it really could have gone somewhere. I mean, as bad news Barrett he was, over. The people loved to hate him or loved to be insulted by him. And damn, he's a guy, if you give him the right gimmick, he can get over, and even if he isn't the biggest superstar in the WWE, he is not the face of the company or a guy who can be the face or the top antagonist of the company. I don't see him in that role, but god damn it, if you want to have a good, solid mid to upper mid carder who can, have good matches in these mid card feuds, he's one of the guys to do that. I mean, come on, we all know you have the undercut here. Nobody really cares about that. That's filler matches or stuff for newer guys you don't have a real plan for. You have the mid card, and that's that's where, for example, the tag team titles, the Divas title, the Intercontinental and the United States title belong, except when you have a feud that's a little bit more personal and is a little bit, it's about a little bit more than about the title. Then you can move them up to the upper mid card or upper card. But in the time when you, in the meanwhile, when you don't have a great feud or a huge feud for these titles, you can put them in the mid card, and you still have to have people who gather interest in these titles. I mean, I like Kalisto, and I liked Ryback. Ryback was released too, so more on that later. These two guys, a guy like King Barrett is capable of having a good match for the title with a little bit of storyline, but, well, it makes sense. But a guy like Kalisto, I like him. I really like him. I like to see him in the ring, especially in tag team action, but he doesn't bring prestige to the title. The matches are rather short. That's not his fault, but WWE's, because, of course, why would they have a 15, 18-minute match that's just about the wrestling and for the title when you have a lot of matches that actually have a real storyline? So, but in order to really give prestige back to the titles, you have to have people chase these titles or defend these titles who represent a little bit more of all the aspects. Not only the in-ring work, but also the mic work and so on. And goddammit, Wade Barrett has charisma, he's a good talker, he's good in the ring. I don't know why they rather have a guy like Alberto Del Rio, who is very capable in the ring. As a talker, well, but in the end, I'd watch a Wade Barrett match over an Alberto Del Rio match in WWE, especially since Del Rio returned any time of the day or any time of the week. So, yeah, I don't get why they release a guy like King Barrett or Wade Barrett who really could go someplace, instead of a guy like Alberto Del Rio who seemed always seemed a little bit off since his return. I mean, come on. Well, and then we have Damien Sandow, another guy I'll miss. He wasn't as present as King Barrett with the League of Nations, and, well, the League of Nations thing really, I can understand why Wade Barrett isn't too hot for being part of the League of Nations, because that gimmick, it's just authority lackeys that were beaten down so often by Roman Reigns that nobody really cared for them anymore or took them seriously. So he as far as I get it, Barrett wouldn't have renewed his contract anyway, but that's a guy you should fight for. If he says, well, Dad, I'm not too happy with how my character is evolving in the WWE, damn it, you try to do something about that. Well, anyway, on to Damien Sandow. Damien Sandow. Here we have another guy, and there were tweets who supported this, what I'm going to say now. Honestly, Damien Sandow, he's a guy who got over in some of the most ridiculous gimmicks we had in recent time. He was the intellectual savior of the masses. He was paired with Cody Rhodes, and they had this weird romance thing going on. He got over as virtually everything WWE had him do. I mean, come on, this guy can get over. He really can. No matter what you do with him. He is no certified main eventer. He doesn't belong in the main event, but damn, he's another guy in the mid card. You could use a guy like him. I mean, come on, you could do a Barry Horowitz story with him, that he's the jobber, and that's another problem with the WWE right now. And that's a problem why many of these releases, or many releases, really rock the world of some fans. you don't have the classic jobber anymore. I mean, come on, Dolph Ziggler is a classic jobber as of now, except that he beat Baron Corbin. Um, you don't have jobbers anymore. Every guy on the roster is a superstar. Hornswoggle is a superstar. WWE tries everything in their power to present every guy on the roster as a superstar. Obviously, that doesn't work because you can't have 50 superstars and only 3 or 4 or 10 of them apparently matter to you. So you don't have the classic jobber anymore, and damn it, he's the kind of guy you could utilize as a jobber. The people like him, and a heel can get a win against him, and at times he really, you know, gets a win or a little bit of a winning streak. And well, if you don't want to use him in the main event, I get that. He's no main eventer. I don't see him in the main event, but damn it, he has the potential to be a good, very good, solid mid-carder. But they don't even really utilize him as a jobber because you don't have jobbers anymore. You only have superstars, and if you are a superstar and lose every match or don't appear at all, I mean, come on. He was the Mrs. Stunt Double, and even in that role, he got over. There's something about him people want to see, and they can't even give him a job as a jobber. Not undercarder, midcarder, nothing. Well, he is capable enough in the ring, more capable than some other guys, and well, some people tweeted quite nicely put. It was nicely put. A little meme. Damien Sandow, no, he gets over on his own, gets released. Roman Reigns can get over by any means possible. Is WWE champion. Well, it's a sad truth. I'm not saying fire Roman Reigns. I'm just saying a guy like Damien Sandow, who obviously has some of what it takes to be a WWE superstar and a real superstar, not a jobber-like guy who you don't want to brand as a jobber. So if he doesn't lose, he doesn't appear at all, but he is a superstar. Honestly, I don't get why WWE released Damien Sandow. There are tons of people on the roster who I'd rather see released. I mean, a lot of people would kill me for this, but damn it, Zack Ryder. I mean, he got over by himself because of his social media activity, and hey, that's okay, that's nice. And when he won the IC title at WrestleMania, it would have been a chance to really get somewhere with him and really do something with him, something interesting. But they didn't do it. They let him lose to the Miz right away, a rematch, and then he's back to this jobber limbo where he's a superstar. People see him as a superstar because WWE presents everybody as a superstar, and the guys are over. But management doesn't see something more than a jobber in them. But well, you just fire them in the end because they are just jobbers, but jobbers who are really really popular with the people. And I think Zack Ryder sooner or later will be released too. Not this year, maybe next year. I don't know. But I'm gonna be honest here. On the contrary to Damien Sandow, I don't see anything in Zack Ryder anymore. I don't think he's entertaining in the ring. He certainly has some entertaining points about his character, but well, if it wasn't for his social media stuff, he would have been fired a long time ago. Anyway, back to Damien Sandow. It's really hard to understand why a guy like that, who got over in the most ludicrous roles, why they would fire him. As I said, Don't put him in the main event. That's nothing he's made for. But mid card, even undercard, he could be a guy who can have an undercard match and make it seem like, well, at least it's not just completely random. That, by the way, that's something where the Miz belongs. The Miz can talk, but he's still very stale and boring in the ring. And imagine a guy like the Miz who can talk and who the people like to hate, or many people like to hate. A guy like Damien Sandow, who the people just love, and you don't really have any clue what to do with them. Put them in a feud, have them have undercard matches, give them 10 minutes. They could make these 10 minutes quite decent, quite entertaining without being the show stealer, and that's a thing WWE needs. That's a thing WWE really needs. You have all the big matches, and the biggest matches, yeah, well, they are the most anticipated ones, and you need to have some stuff in the middle that isn't 15 minutes long or 20 minutes long, and that doesn't involve as much as a story as the main event or more important feuds. And well, you need to have these kind of matches to calm the crowd a little bit down, so they are hot or in shape, so to speak, for the next big match. And these little matches, these filler matches, or the undercard matches, they don't have to be long. They don't have to involve a lot of story, but they need to involve some people that the crowd doesn't fall asleep during these matches. And Damien Sandow is one of the guys to do that. The people would love to see Damien Sandow, cheer for him a little bit, like what he does, and well, that's better than the 20th Ryback Kalisto match. Okay, that one's for a title, but in the end, the people don't care too much for that. But we all know there are certain everybody's darlings or internet darlings the WWE wants to shout, the WWE wants to tell us, the people like Damien Sandow, Zack Ryder, Dolph Ziggler. Well, yeah, we have these guys. We appreciate a little bit of the work they do for us, but in the end, well, we don't need them. And yeah, at times some of these guys go, like Damien Sandow. It's really a shame, and it shows that WWE still has, or yeah, still still has to learn again what made them great in the Attitude Era. It wasn't necessarily the stars of the Attitude Era that they try to bring back every now and then. It was the whole concept on how they handled things. I mean, today, somebody like in a similar role to, let's say, Right to Censor. I mean, everybody hated Right to Censor back then. It wasn't a great stable. It wasn't a very interesting stable, but you loved to see the asses kicked because they were the Right to Censor. They really stepped on the people's toes by telling them, "Oh, you can't do that. Oh, that's not appropriate." And well, you don't have that anymore. You have the bigger matches with feuds, and you have matches that have no really engaging feud, or engaging story behind them. And well, in the Attitude Era, you knew every mid carder, and you either loved them or you hated them. And nowadays, you don't care for many people. You have your few darlings you root for, but in the end, yeah, they are stuck with more and more stupid gimmicks, like Damien Sandow, who by the way, got all of these stupid gimmicks over. I mean, that's a feat, an achievement. I mean, most on the guys on the roster couldn't have done that. I mean, if Damien Sandow sat down with Roman Reigns and talked about him, hey, this is how you get your character over. I mean, probably it would work. But that way, WWE has some undercarders, and you don't. At times, I get the feeling WWE doesn't want you to love the undercarders. If you really appreciate them as a superstar, they're done for, because the superstars are in the main event. But then again, WWE tells us everybody's a superstar. Well, I don't know. This Black Friday release wave, well, most of it is good riddance, or I don't really care about it. Santino is a little bit sad, but King Barrett and Damien Sandow are just plain stupid releases that you shouldn't have done. And now, as I said earlier, a little bit on Ryback. Ryback. I don't know why, but it came over time. I came to like the guy. He's this big, clumsy fellow who's has a little bit of Goldberg without being as explosive and as powerful, but he certainly looks buffed. And well, I don't really know. Somehow I like the guy. I mean, he hurt CM Punk in the Hell in a Cell match when he was green. On the other hand, he was in a great in a great TLC match with Team Hell No against the Shield. And I mean, he wasn't great and isn't great in the ring or anything like that, but somehow I like to see the guy. He had some sort of strange charisma, and I mean, come on, the people really bought into the feed me more stuff. Well, he criticized WWE for apparently for people being not paid enough, or I gotta look up here. Not being paid enough. Where is it? Anyway, he criticized WWE, and yeah, well, I think Triple H can deal with criticism. I mean, if he would talk freely, look at how he does with NXT. If he would talk freely to Vince how the main roster stuff is done, I think Vince would be furious. But well, I don't know that. But the NXT booking, well, the shows are not always awesome, but in the end, the special events that culminate the feuds, those are always good, at least good. They are at least good, often they are awesome. And why is that? Well, the whole main difference to the main roster is that NXT is Triple H's child. He is one of the guys who books this, and it works, and the people love it. And the main roster, well, Vince has the final say, and a lot of stuff. It's like Vince has gotten old, and he makes the same mistakes again. In the mid 90s, he was stuck on this 80s, or he wasn't stuck in the 80s. He was trying to make the 80s a little bit more hip with even more cartoony gimmicks, and not the classic comic book superhero, supervillain, or hero villain stuff, but with really cartoony gimmicks. And I mean, we all know some of the worst gimmicks that came off. I don't even want to think about it, but problem is, Vince in the 80s, he was at the pulse of the city, was the pulse of the city, so to speak. He knew what the people wanted. He was in touch with the crowd. In the early 90s, he lost touch with the crowd. And in the Attitude Era, I mean, watch the Monday Night Wars documentary, the 20-part documentary on the network. WWE says it themselves. The only thing that really brought them forward and brought them on par with the WCW, which, by the way, was horrible at times in the main event with the big NWO storyline. I hated the NWO storyline virtually from the point Hogan joined. It was like, oh, big shock, and after that, it sucked. and sucked more and more donkey cocks every week because the booking was so fucking horrid. And even with this horrible booking, a lot of fans ate it up, and WWE couldn't compete because they were undergoing a change, because Vince seemed to realize, I don't know how to get the crowd anymore, and damn it. He gave the people, the wrestlers, creative freedom. And I mean, if I was a wrestler and in the ring or the handiwork, I could do that just fine. I would be a good wrestler. But the question is, what kind of gimmick should I play? What kind of character? If I get, for example, I'm told play, well, I don't know, El Bear, or Der Bear, a German Barry type of guy who, yeah, bear hugs people, and I mean, if I get this gimmick, of course I'm gonna stink. Nobody's gonna like me. If I myself can be a little bit creative with my character, I know what I like, I know how I am, I know how to bring or to transport that to the crowd. And the crowd knows if there's a guy in a bear costume, or a Mantar costume, or Fantasia, or some shit like that, or the lame ass hero, clean cut, good guy like Rocky Maivia. Yeah, if you have such guy, nobody likes that. That's like, well, we the WWE think you are stupid. If you can, yeah, put a little bit more of your character, your own character in the gimmicks, and possibly even explore some of your more darker sides or more extreme sides of yourself, positive and negative sides, well, of course it's going to get interesting. And we saw that. And the Vince McMahon persona, the evil boss, that's just, well, we have all the stuff we need. We have a lot of rebels now. People hate me. Well, evil Mr. McMahon, and it was awesome. I mean, come on, it was awesome. But the thing is, WWE has lost touch again, and Vince has lost touch again. I'm not against the PG era. That's fine with me. I think it's hard, at least in Germany, you can't sell wrestling as PG. In Germany, we have the FSK ratings. There are 0 years or 6 years, 6 years with an adult supervisor or supervisor. 12 years, 16 years, and 18 years. And you never, I mean, a lot of children watch wrestling, but you'll never get a DVD or something else that's not, that's for children with wrestling. In America, that seems to be different. Well, they don't care about the violence, but oh god damn it, if there's blood, oh, I don't get it. I don't really get it. But going a little bit astray here. Problem is WWE is not in touch with the crowd anymore, and that's why a guy, maybe even that's exactly why Damien Sandow was so successful with so many of his stupid gimmicks, because the people said, hey, WWE wants to insult our intelligence, they want to make a fool of good old Damien Sandow. Well, that's a reason to cheer for him, because that's the real underdog. He goes against the system, and he really goes against the system. He has to do tons of shit for the WWE, and in the end, well, he succeeded. Not in the ring, but in the heart of the fans. And I think that's how we should remember him in WWE, that he was the guy who had to do the most stupidest characters, and we still loved him. And that, for me, that's just awesome. So, I don't know, hopefully Extreme Rules softens the mood, because as some of you might have know if you watched my other reviews, I like the match quality at Payback, but the results really killed it for me. hopefully Extreme Rules will be better, or if I really find the time to finally watch them, Invasion Attack or Wrestling Dontaku by New Japan, that'll lighten my mood, because that's good wrestling with not too many bullshit finishes, if any. So hopefully you'll tune in next time. Yeah, well, we have to see what what I have in store next. So anyway, so long, yours Aquifel.